Are you yelling at?
No, I'm yelling at Randy because he's got to get you on.
All right. Well, he was on. He just didn't start it.
Before 9?
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Before 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
Today is Dafia Gimel. So also remind everyone tomorrow 6:25. Let's start 6:30ish.
No, maybe we should say 6:25.
6:25.
Yeah. Listen to Kaddish and then come here right now.
Or whatever. We're learning first. All right, learning first rather than davening after. Mitzvah Shem. All right. Zok the Gemara. We left off Mishnah on the top of Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. So now, just as a reminder, because we're going to play off of the previous Mishnah. The previous Mishnah had a case where all of a sudden there was a Tainus Basulim, right? And she says, bad luck for you because I was violated after I was engaged. And he says, no, right? It occurred before, and therefore, in terms of claims of money, we saw it was a machlokes in terms of what's he claiming. So basically, he's saying that I don't have to, I don't have to pay anything. So Ram Gamliel says believed, and Rabbi Shua says she's believed, and Rabbi Shua says we don't believe her because she has to bring proof as to when she was violated if she wants to go ahead and get her money. Now, Zuk the Mishnah, he Meres, same case, comes to base the next morning, says I did not find a psulim, so he Meres mukas eitzani. She says I was a mukas eitz, right? I got injured. Now remember, yesterday, one of the svaras we had of the reason why she's nemenes is because she had a migo, right? She says, since I could have claimed mukas eitz, and I said instead I was violated, that it was via, right? But it was, have it in your time. So therefore, even though it passes the kahuna, nevertheless, right? She's believed that case. So over here, there is no migo. So nevertheless, in this case, he Meres mukas eitzani. V'hu omer lo ki ella drusas ish at. It came. Right, it came from Bia with another man. However, as Rashi points out, kodem sharistik, right? Before they're engaged. In other words, he's basically saying that no, I married you. Right? He's not saying she's usher, right? Rather, he's saying that you were a bu'ula. So Gamliel, Rabbi Yezer, Aimim Nemenes, she is believed. And Rabbi Shua says, no, we don't believe her, says Rabbi Shua. Rather, she has to go ahead and the burden of proof is upon her until she brings, she brings proof that indeed it did not come from another man. So that was, once again, Rabbi Gamliel says we believe her, and Rabbi Shua says the burden of proof is upon her. Zok the Gemara. Now, we didn't explain how much each one is claiming, right? She says mukas eitz, and he says, no, right, mukas eitz from before the time I got married, or we got had kedushin, and he says, no, you were with another man before we got engaged, or before we had kedushin. So what is their claim? Rabbi Yechanan is saying, she is claiming 200, right? She's claiming 200, I'm a drusas ish, I'm a mukas eitz. And his claim, no, you were ba'ula, right, from Bia, drusas ish, is 100. And Rabbi Elazar Amar, Bamana, her claim is 100 drusas ish, I get 100. And he says, no, you were drusas ish, you get 0. And what's the machlokes here? Rabbi Yechanan, Rabbi Masayim, Bamana, V'sarla Kramer. He holds like Kramer, Damar, Bain Hikirba, Bain Lo Hikirba Masayim. He holds that even in the case of mukas eitz, whether he knew about it or not, since it was not a Maisa Bia, it's always 200. Therefore, since her claim is 200, his claim is 100. The Rebbe Elazar, her claim is, I'm not a basula. I'm a mukas eitz. I get 100. So if she's claiming 100, then his claim is 0. Right? And they hold like Rabban. Damar bein hikirba, bein lo hikirba, mana. Right? Who hold that whether or not they knew about it, right? One second. Whether or not that it was recognized, in other words, whether or not that he realized that she was a mukas eitz, gets 100. What was the question?
So according to Rabbanan, mukas eitz is 100.
Yes, whether he knew about it or not. There's no mention of.
He
He owes my side. Now, Bishlama Rabbi Eliezer Lama Kar Rabbi Yechanan. I understand Rabbi Eliezer did not say like Rabbi Yechanan to come look at Rabbanan. He wants to hold like the Rabbanan, right? Who says that her claim is 100 and therefore his is 0. Elo Rabbi Yechanan, my time Lama Kar Rabbi Eliezer. Why is Rabbi Yechanan not hold like Rabbi Eliezer? So Ksaver Kansa Bechesus Basula, Benin says Bula. He holds that if he thought he was marrying a Basula, and it turns out she's not a Basula, she's a Mukas Eitz, Yesh la Ksuba Mana. She only has 100. Only Basulas get 200, not 100. So therefore, that's the claim. So how could it be then? Hachu to come Ramana, the he come Ramana, Ma'ika Bain Tain Tide, the Dina Dida. So therefore, if a Mukas Eitz is 100, right? So how could his claim be, no, you're a Jusasish, which is also 100, right? So she's claiming 100 and he's claiming 100. So what's the argument? Obviously, if she's claiming it's 100, he must be claiming 0. His claim is I owe you less than what you're claiming I owe you. So therefore, that's the reason, according to Rabbi Elazar or Rabbi Yechanan. Excuse me. Now, Bishlam Rabbi Elazar Hainu Tani Tarti. Now we have to put on our thinking caps. Now we had 2 Mishnayos, right? The previous Mishnah and this one. So Bishlam Rabbi Elazar Hainu Tani Tarti. Why we have 2 different cases. Right. The other one was right, and Rashi's going. We're going to actually read this Rashi for in a second. According to Rabbi Elazar, so why is that? You have 2 cases: the previous Mishnah, this Mishnah. One is lafukim Rabbi Racham, v'chad lafukim Rabbi Chia bar Abin, Rav Sheshes. In other words, one is to disprove both those shitas. So what is that? Let's look at Rashi for a second. Look at the Rashi of So it says in the previous Mishnah, he Omeres Misharastani Nanasti. She said in the previous Mishnah that after we were engaged after the Kedushin, I was violated. So Tana Lamisne, the right said, right? So over there, it comes to teach us that his claim is that you get 0. It was a mekach tos, right? Because you were in that case, to exclude to exclude Rav Chia bar Avin, who says earlier, the name says bula, yesh la ksuva mana. Right, that if you married her as a basula, right, I think she's a basula. It turns out she's a bula. That according to Rav Chia bar Avin, she gets 100. So therefore, it taught that Mishnah to exclude that shita. That he holds that if she thought she was a basula, and she's just a bula, gets 100. No, to exclude that, you get 0. Batani now why did it bring our Mishnah? Batani Yomer's Mukas Eitzani Lafuki the Rabbi Racham. In our case, our Mishnah, where she claims that Mukas Eitz is to exclude the shita of Rami Rachama. The Amar Leo said earlier, Gabi Mukas Eitz, about Divra Klum, right? Mukas Eitz gets 0. So over here is coming to exclude that opinion. If you didn't know she was a Mukas Eitz, come and exclude that. No, you get 100. El Rabbi Yechanan. So now back in the Gemara. El Rabbi Yechanan Tarti Lamali. Why do we have 2 Mishnayos? What are the 2? What's the chiddush in both? So my answer is one's to teach you the strength of the argument of Rabbi Gamliel, and the other is the strength of the argument of Rabbi Yeshua. So Kamaisa, the previous Mishnah, when she says Misharas Tani Nanasti, and he says no, it happened during after you're engaged. The Rabbi Yeshua. No, excuse me, I mean before, right? The Rabbi Yeshua, the Afag of the Glamer Amigo, that over there, according to Rabbi Yeshua, right? Even though there's a migo, right? That since over there she could have claimed I was a mukas eitz to get a ksuba, but instead she claims no, I was violated, right? I was a bula, I was violated as a sit and from Pasalakuna. Nevertheless, Rabbi Yeshua says she's still not believed, so it's a big chiddush in Rabbi Yeshua. So that's why that Mishnah was taught to teach you that even in that case, Rabbi Yeshua does not believe her, even though she has a migo. Lo mehenna. And Basrais, in our case, the Rangamliel gives the strength of Rangamliel that she is the menace. The Alpha got the like of amigo, even though she doesn't have amigo, right? Over here, when she's claiming Mukaseit, because that's the best claim she could say. Nevertheless, we say she is believed because she is the one who has more of a bari claim versus his, where he's just suggesting that perhaps you had bia prior to the engagement. Fine. So Mishnah says, Ra'u medaberes im echad.
Bottom line is,
Yeah.
if the woman didn't tell the husband before he wrote the ketubah,
Right.
she shouldn't get anything to do it. That's what the.
Well, that's machlokas, right? Some holds that's a mechtos. Other holds that no, she's a bula. So yes, the value of a bula or of an almana is 100, so you get 100. Versus the other shita, right? That was the but Reb Chia bar Avin we saw. He was the one who said, okay, the price of a bula or a almana is 100. You get 100. Yeah, you thought you were getting A, but you got B. But this is the value of B. Versus, like you said, or whether it's a mechtos and he says I owe you 0. Fine. Mishnah. Ra'u medaberes imacher. We see that she was medaberes. We'll soon have to explain what this means. Medaberes with somebody, and he asked her, what is the nature of this man? Right? Is he a mamzer? Is he a scene which will pass her, like kahuna, will pass her child? So she says, no, he's plenty of kaido. No, he's he has good lineage. Once again, Rabbi Eliezer says she is believed. Rabbi Shua says no. We don't rely on her. No, she is assumed to have had relations with an asin or a mamzer until she brings proof otherwise. Case 2. Haisa muberis. If she was now pregnant, that was midaberis. This is muberis.
Prove that you're not like without computers and DNA, like.
Well, what is if this is the individual, this is the guy who it was. If they bring the person who was he was the one that we saw who was midaberis with her, and people know who he is. People know his lineage. Now, Haisa muberis, if she was pregnant. Well, let's see. We don't know. Let's see. I said the Gemara. We'll explain what the Gemara is. So Haisa muberis, if she was pregnant, right? Vamrlan says, what is the nature of this? She says, Mish plani v'koino. No, it's from a kosher person, and he's Kohen. Once again, she is believed. Rabbi Yeshua, we don't depend on her. She's assumed to have been pregnant from a nasin or a mamzer, which will pass to the kuna, until she brings proof. Zok the Gemara, my midaberis. What is this midaberis, right? What's the type? Ziri Amar Nistera. It means she was seen to be in seclusion with the guy, right? We're not talking about just, they were seen talking in public, right? That obviously nothing happens there, right? They were seen in seclusion. And Rabbi Asi Amar Nivala. It means midaberis means she was nivala. She was witness to have been niveles, to have relations with this individual. So Bishlam Azeri Hainu Tani Midaberis, right? It says the word Midaberis usually means to speak, right? He was talking with, right? Talking and seclusion. So no, he didn't see my Sabia. Alavasi, my Midaberis. Why is it called Midaberis? Say Nivelas. So the answer says no, Lishna Me'aya, we want to use a clean lashon. The pasuk says, Achla Machtia Pia V'amar Lei Palti Yav. So it says over there, right, referring to her Bia over there, she says, I ate, right? She was eating, right? Obviously, they was referring to relations, but they wanted to say in a nice, clean, nucky way. So Bishlam and Ziri. Now, okay, fine. So we established it with this Machlois Medaberis. So Bishlam and Ziri, Hainu Tani Tarti, 2 different cases. According to Ziri, one is she was seen in seclusion, the other one is she was mamish pregnant. So we know there was a Maisapia. So Bishlam and Ziri, Hainu Tani Tarti, Medaberis, Muberis. El Ravasi Tartalamdi. Why are there 2 cases, right? If she was seeing Nivelas, it's the same as she was pregnant. Both cases as Maisabia, right? So Lamali. So well, the answer is no. One is by her that she is still kasher lekuna, and the second case is to teach her that when testifying about the fact that her her fetus, when the child is born, that child is also not a mamzer. So that was the 2 cases. So okay, so this works well according to the one who says that we say that when she's believed regarding herself, she's also believed regarding her baby. But according to the opinion, it says no, we only machshir her and not her daughter, right? Because her daughter was never born, never really had a cheskes kashrus, or child, right? Or daughter, right? He's never had a cheskes kashrus. But what are you going to say according to that opinion? So it must be Ravasi. So it must be the Ravasi held that the one who says she's nemeres also machshir is not only her but also machshir bita, and that's why there's 2 cases. So Amar Le Rav Papa Le Abaye says Rav Papa Le Abaye the Zeiri, according to Zeiri, the Amar Mai Medaberes Nisra that says what does the word Medaberes mean in our Mishnah means Nisra she was seen in seclusion. The Amar Rabbi Yeshua Lo Mehamna and Rabbi Yeshua says she's not believed. So she's not believed, so she's considered to be someone who is possible kuna. I Amar Rav Malkin al Yichud ein Oisid al Yichud. Right, if a woman has Yichud, we only give her Malkus, right? Malkus Rabbana, right? We don't we don't answer her. We don't say she's possible kahuna. So let's say he doesn't. The Rav must now hold like Rabbi Yeshua that she's not believed. So the answer is no. I feel to Rabbi Yeshua ma'alos ubiyuchsa. When it comes to yichus, right? When it comes to kahuna, right? Then then we what's it called? Then we're more machmer, and we say that we'll have a chumrah and say that she can't go ahead and marry a kohen. So Meisve now ask the kasha. So now Ra'ua shenichnasa im acha l'saser. She was seen, right, with somebody yichud, right? As Rashi says, mashma yichud b'yalma. She was seen with one case. She was seen with she's had yichud with somebody. Or another case, l'churba, or she was seen to be walking into an old churba, an old ruined, right? Which is a place, as Rashi points out, Stamalabiyah, Shemakom Liznus, right? The only one reason why people go to the ruins, right, is to Ma'isabiyah for Znus. So one is a case where Stam Nistara, which Stam has Yichud, and the other is she's seen Miss Yached in a place which is normally a motel room, right, and something which is Stamalabiyah. Law, and both these cases, right? So say Mati Mishal Ishza, what was the nature of the person you're with? So she says, Koinu ben Achi Abahu, right? No, he's a Kohen, he has good yichus, right? He's my cousin, right? The son of my father's brother. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eliezer, Aimim Nemes. She is believed. Rabbi Shua, Aimer, Lai Mipiana Chayin. No, we don't trust her. Ela Harezu, Becheskas Beula. No, and she's considered to be a bula until she brings a proof that he was not a Nasina or a mamzer. Now, I understand according to Ziri, who said earlier that Medaberes meant to be Nisteres. So I understand according to Ziri, there's two cases, Lasaser or the Churba, right? One is the case, Lasaser basically means that it was Yichud, and the Churba is like the case when she was pregnant. El Ravasi, according to Ravasi, Damar Nivala, who says both cases are Nival, Tarti Lamali, why are the two cases here? So he answers no. So one case, the case was L'Sasir de Churva, right? She went to go ahead and be in seclusion in a Churva, right? Which is a place that goes on. So really it's the same case. But it doesn't say that. It says L'Sasir Olu Churva. There's an O there, not li, right? So chada lechurva demasa. One is to a ruin in the city where you have the inhabitants of the city, which are mostly kosher, Jewish people, not mamzerim. The chada lechurva dedabra. Another one is a ruin outside the city, right, far away, where basically now you have anybody in the world could have been there, and now all of a sudden you have a great potential of an asinin or a mamzer. Utzrichi, and we need both cases. Because if you only had the churva of the town, maybe in this case, Rabbi Gamliel would have said, it's kasher mishum derog sheir metzla, because we'd say that most people are sheir metzla because most people are from the town. But if you're ruined out in the field, right, outside the city, where it could be anyone in the world, where most people are other chavim and psulim and by her, maybe that they would agree that she's not a menace. And if we just had the case out in the ruins, out in the field, in that case, Rabbi Yeshua would say that she's not believed because most people are psulim etzla. But in the city, maybe she should believe. Therefore, it's tzricha. Therefore, we need both cases. However, doesn't give up. This is a testimony, right, or a type of testimony that a woman is believed to say l'kasher nivalti, that she was, that what she had relations with somebody who we don't know who it is, that she's believed to say he was kosher, he was yaches, he had yichus. She's not believed. And Amar Lahem Rabbi Yeshua says Rabbi Yeshua Iyatam Maidim B'Shvuya Shenish Beis, right? Well, did you guys not agree? No, she's not believed. Don't you guys agree in a case when she's held captive, right? By Ovdi Chavim, the Yeshva Adam Shenish Beis, and there's witnesses that are testifying that she was captured, that she was held captive. The Amaris Tahirani, that she says, "Oh, I'm Tahira." Tahirani Shein and Emenes, that she's not believed, right? So don't you guys admit to believe the case where she's held captive by Ovdi Chavim that she's psula, right? She's not believed. So I'm they say, but yeah, but Val Ma Hefresh is Yesh Bein Zulazu. What's the difference in this case now? Is Lazu Yesh and Lazu Elaydim. In that case, there are witnesses that saw that she's being held captive. In this one, there's no witnesses, right? You're assuming. So Af Lazu Yesh Edim. Even this, there are witnesses. Why Shari Krisa Ben Shinel? Right? She's pregnant, right? The woman is pregnant. Obviously, she was nivelas. So there's an assumption, just like over there, that she was just seen to be taken captive, so we're assuming that she was nivelas Ovdi Chavim. So to over here, right? So she's pregnant. She was nivelas, obviously, right? So it must be someone's like the chasher. Some Rav Ovdi Chavim proofs in Barayas. But they said to them, "Oh, what do you mean, right?" Right. Her stomach is between her teeth, right? Yeah, and I guess
That means it's.
I know, but every place else they say no Barrett. I mean.
Right, why does it say, yeah. I guess it's like exaggerating the fact that she's pregnant, right? Right, yeah, she's that much pregnant. She has a baby in her. She's right, yeah. So yeah, so Gemara says. So, but says, what do you mean by in the case of the captors of Shuyam of the Chavim, Prutzim Barayas? They're her captors. They're Prutzim Barayas, right? They're considered to be, they do a lot of immoral things. Some of that, she said, yeah, but you know what? Right? There is no such thing as a guard for a rice. Even a kosher person also is not trusted, right? You can have good yichus, you cannot be imams, you cannot be in the sin. Nevertheless, a person is alone, his Yetzirah gets the best of him. So he said, what are you talking about? We're talking about with Eidus Isha Bekufa by herself. Eidus Isha Bebita, Divrei Hakol Havlad Shtuki. When it comes to herself, then she's a menace. But when it comes to her daughter, everyone will agree that Vlad is Shtuki. So the Gemara says, wait, so what's this back and forth? My kamar lahu, my kamahadir lay. What is this back and forth between Rabbi Shua when he says Roba Abchobas and other Chavims? So hachi kamar lay. This is what the conversation was in this brisa. Shiftanu al muberes. Okay, you explained to us in the case of the muberes. In other words, obviously we know that she was nivelis. Once she's nivelis, then we don't know who. Matzvivel medaberes. But what are the case of stam medaberes? And over here we see that medaberes means means what's it called? Means different, right? In other words, it's not pregnant. It means talking or yichud, right? So mashvein al medaberes, shalom medaberes hainu shvuya. Well, isn't that the same case as the captors? We just have witnesses that she was taken by captors, right? Right? There was no witnesses that she was actually nivelas, right? That should be the same as medaberes. So Amirlo, Shani, Shivuya, Deroy of the Chavim, Fruits and Barayas. So he said, no, when you're taken captive, since it was taken captive by of the Chavim, they're Fruits and Barayas, and therefore we can assume that she was Nivelas. So Hanami came on these there. Once she's having yichud with somebody, also ain't apichopos larayas. There is no apichopos larayas. There is no watch, and therefore we can assume that she was Vaday Nivelas. Katani Mias, nevertheless it says, why do you bring this in? Tarti, Medeberes Umeberes. So over here, we bring two cases, right? There's the case of Muberes when she's actually pregnant, and there's the case of when she was just had yichud of Medeberes. And therefore, Tiyufta, the Ravasi Tiyufta, it's a kasher Ravasi, because Ravasi said in Amar Aleph that Medeberes was Nivelas. And we see clearly that Medeberes means that she was in yichud with somebody else, and not the fact that she was nivelas. There's no instance, and therefore it's a kasher Ravasi who explains our Mishnah. So therefore we can go back to our Mishnah and say, what does medaberes mean? Medaberes means case of yichud. Now the Gemara says, typically the hasan the Rav Psul Mesla, the Hacha Rav Kshem Mesla. So maybe you can say that over there in the case of the captors there was Rav Psul, over here Hacha Rav Kshem Mesla. So Messiah Levi, Rabbi Shubin Levi must be approved. Rabbi Shubin Levi, Damar Shubin Levi. The divrei hamachshir machshir afilu b'Rav Psulin. He who goes ahead and machshires, even a Rav Psulin, even if most people around are Rav Psulin, and the Divrei Apaisel, and the one who says that we don't believe her, Pasal, even most of the we don't go ahead and believe. And Amr Yechon the Divrei HaMachshir Ba Machshir Bita. According to Yechon, we saw this earlier. According to the opinion, Machshir is her, Machshir Bita. Also, Machshir's with her daughter if she's born. The Divrei Apaisel Ba Paisel Bita. The one says no, we don't believe her. Right? She's Pasal Kuna. So to her daughter's Pasal Kuna. However, Rabbi Elazar says, no, the one who says she is kosher, it's only she's kosher, but her daughter is not possible. Why? Amarav, my time with Rabbi Elazar. So Bishlam Isa Cheskas the Kashas. She is a Cheskas Kasha. She was born, to we know, to good parents, and she had good yichus. So now her suffix comes, right? Not only her suffix comes after she already had a Cheskas Kashas. However, Bita, Lesla Chazaka the Kashas. But however, her daughter was never born known to be kosher. She was born into the suffix. So therefore, since she was born into the suffix, therefore we can't assume that she's kosher lakuna. So Eitzver was the Rabbi Yechanan, but Medvar Eidus Isha begufa. Aval Eidus Isha bebita Divrei Hakol Havlad Shtut. So we're only to when is the woman believed? She's believed about herself. But when it comes to her daughter, the Vlad is a shtuki. In other words, it sounds like we don't believe her, right? Well, my lav shtuki apostle. What does it mean? Shtuki means shtok, right? Quiet. In other words, we don't know who her father is. We don't know her yichus. So you see clearly that the woman is not believed about her child. So Gemara says no. Shtuki of a kasher means she's a shtuki, or the daughter's a shtuki, but she's also kasher lakuna. So Gemara says umiika shtuki kasher. This is such thing as a shtuki kasher. Gemara says yeah. Actually, we saw this earlier. I think we saw this in Yivamas. Kiddush Shmuel. Like Shmuel's a dumber. Shmuel, Asar Kohanim, Oimdim. There was 10 Kohanim. And then a woman had relations with one of 10 Kohanim. We don't know with which one. And Havlad Shtuki. We say the Vlad is a Shtuki. Now we know each of these 10 men were Kohanim. So what does it mean the child is a Shtuki? So my Shtuki. If we say that in other words we're quiet when it comes to we don't know who this child inherits. So pshit, that's obvious. We don't know who the father is. So right, Manu, do we know who the father is? Obviously not. Obviously, this one cannot inherit any of those people. If any of them die, this child cannot get any of the inheritance. Ella, shemashtik and oisam and tinkuna. Rather, what does it mean the child mean the shtuki? It means that the child is not a Kohen, even though all 10 are Kohanim. So obviously, we're not saying the child's a mamzer because none of the potential fathers are mamzer. We say the child's not a Kohen, even though all 10 of them are Kohanim, not a Kohen. Yeah.
This is similar like the case of the meat. You know, the 10 butchers. So if it's also part of that subject, if one of them is the father, then maybe it should work.
No. But we know the case of the meat is kosher. There's kosher and right. But over there is right when we go after the rove, right?
With regard
So
to
but here we know they're all good. Oh, why is kuna different? The pasuk says v'haisa lo lazaro achara bris kunas olam. So it says be after him bris kunas olam, right? Is that this expression, right? Yeah. Pinchas, right? V'haisa lo lazaro achara after him bris kunas. So mish zara miyuchas achara. Notice you have to know who your father is, right? To be a Kohen, you have to know this specific person was my father. Since he was my father, he's a Kohen. I'm also a Kohen. But it can't be that one of these 10 fathers are my father, and therefore, since all of them are Kohanim, I'm also a Kohen. I just don't know which one. That doesn't work. What? No, it's not a mamzer. She was an unmarried woman. So it wasn't like she was married. So so therefore, this person is not would not be considered to be a Kohen. But when it comes to shtuki, it's not a kasher refer because we say no, the Vlad is kosher. She's believed to say that the Vlad is kosher. Just the Vlad, if it's potentially big coin, and the Vlad is not coin. All right, we'll stop here. Tomorrow with Hashem, we're going to learn first at approximately 6:30, and then Hashem will daven afterwards at 17 million. Mazel tov, everyone have a wonderful